Starfield has always been a great game. I love science fiction games. Mass Effect, the whole trilogy, has been one of my favorite. It actually is my favorite trilogy to play every year. I mean, I play it so much, my friends actually will roast me for it. And you know what? I don't care. I love playing Mass Effect, and Starfield really fulfills that Mass Effect void sometimes, because we haven't gotten a new Mass Effect for a long time. I mean, we did get Mass Effect Andromeda. Even I'm pretty forgiving with games. I didn't really like Mass Effect Andromeda. Starfield, on the other hand, is a game from Bethesda Game Studios, which, made the hit Skyrim back in 2011. Skyrim, even for Bethesda, is a special case. It's just a hit. And sometimes that's what you get. You get a home run with a game you launch. And Skyrim came out at just the right time, and it was just accessible enough for a lot of people to try out. I know there's some revisionism saying that Skyrim isn't as great as you think, or people who just getting to the series don't like Skyrim. That's fine, but the numbers really don't lie. And before Starfield, they released Fallout 4, and Fallout 4 was pretty well received generally, and then there were some people who didn't really like Fallout 4. But still, Fallout 4 had a huge community. When Fallout 76 came out and it was an unplayable mess, it destroyed a lot of trust between Bethesda and their community. By the time Fallout 76 was announced, Bethesda fans were just hungry for the next Elder Scrolls. There's Elder Scrolls Online, their MMO. Once again, just not really popular with a whole lot of Elder Scrolls fans. I feel like that's really for the hardcore Elder Scrolls fans. But not everyone can commit to an MMO. They want a new Elder Scrolls. But what Bethesda revealed that what they were working on the same time they announced Fallout 76 is they revealed Starfield. And they said it was going to be a next-gen title. Now, keep in mind that Starfield was announced before the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X even had a name. They just said it was going to be for next-gen systems. Now, it's been almost a year since Starfield was launched. It'll be a year in September. And we are sitting here with Starfield's biggest update yet. It is not really adding any content to the game, but what it has done is raise the quality of life greatly. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with game updates and gaming in general, if you're kind of new to this, quality of life basically improves the playability of a game. In Starfield's case, it adds a lot of performance enhancements for the Xbox Series X console, allowing you to manage your frame cap, allowing you to jump it up to 30 to 60, and also have your Xbox prioritize either the graphical fidelity or the frames per second. Now, the game has also been made more accessible. So you can tweak the game's difficulty to whatever you want. If combat's too hard for you, you can make that easy. But if you want a more realistic exploration experience and you really like the survival aspect, you can tweak that way up. There will be XP bonuses and penalties depending on your tweaks. If you make the game easier, you're going to have a slowdown in character progression and leveling. If you make the game harder, you're going to see a boost in character progression and leveling. Now, the game is very noticeably better in the 60 frames performance mode, and it doesn't really tank the graphical fidelity that much. On consoles, I'll always pick performance mode over visuals mode because I just would rather have a smoother running game than one that looks nicer, and I also think that graphics haven't greatly improved since the Xbox One and PS4, so I'll always take the frames over the graphics. Now, there's some other quality of life stuff too, but not everyone's going to use these features or really care about them, but they're cool to see. Where previously Starfield had these blank maps that kind of just gave you an idea of where things were, now they're really highly detailed, they're really fully rendered. Where previously you could be wandering aimlessly in a big city looking for a gear supplier or a doctor, and you're just kind of wandering around, well, now you could pull out your character scanner and those will be highlighted on the map. So that's great. Another thing is, if you really like the ship customization, now it's even further enhanced. In fact, there are some new ships added that are like blank slate ships, where previously you could buy ships and they'd be pre-furnished and you didn't really have a say in the decorations. Now those ships will come in blank slates. So essentially being, you'll get a ship armed with weapons and all of its engines and stuff, but the inside won't actually have anything in it, allowing you as a player to kind of decorate your ship to your liking. Now, here is some spoilers, so if you don't want me to spoil Starfield, even though it's been out for a while, skip past this point, but just be aware, this is a crucial part of the update. So, at the end of Starfield, you have to embrace Unity if you want to jump into New Game Plus. Now, what is Unity? Essentially, Starfield's story boils down to you unraveling the mystery of space and discovering that there are alternate universes. So when your character embraces Unity, you're giving up everything. You're giving up your credits, you're giving up your bases, you're giving up your ships, you're giving up your connections with your followers, you're giving up your inventory, so you're losing your spacesuits and your weapons. You're giving up everything when you embrace Unity. You are jumping into a new dimension. But the trade-off here is that you are gifted with a Starborn suit that has some pretty good randomly generated perks on it, and a new Starborn ship called the Starborn Guardian. That was already there. The main difference here being that now, whereas New Game Plus would just thrust you into a new version of your character with your skill points and Starborn powers intact, you now have the option to kind of do some respecking. You can recustomize your character if need be, if you're not too proud of their appearance or just want to change things up. The other thing is that you can change your traits. So say you were using the House of Enlightenment trait that gives you access to the House of Enlightenment chest in New Atlantis, but you weren't really visiting that chest all that much. Like I was in my current playthrough, I switched that off and went with the Great Serpent perk that allows you to get a health boost if you keep grav jumping your ship. So it's very helpful to kind of mend your character's flaws and really figure out what's good for that character before fully jumping into New Game Plus. You can't change your character's job, but that doesn't matter because all the jobs do when you first create a fresh slate blank character is the job just gives you 3 skill points and gives you a head start in any skill tree that you might want to spec into. There is a lot I like about Starfield, and there's still things that I think need improvement. For example, I hope they improve some planet exploration. But this is a massive undertaking, even for Bethesda, because what they're doing here is they're making procedurally generated planets, which means that unlike Skyrim or Fallout that have these massive maps that you can explore every nook and cranny, you can't really do that in Starfield because these planets are randomly generated. So that means that they're kind of tied to an algorithm, and the algorithm determines what type of animals are on that planet, what type of installations are on that planet, and how the weather on that planet. So making planets with huge cities, random cities and stuff, that's just not going to happen. And all we can really hope for is that they should make another Starfield eventually and kind of work that mechanic in and improve it better. And we want Bethesda to get there. I think that people immediately writing this off as not good is just not fair to the game because it is very impressive. In fact, Starfield was one of my most played games of last year. I played it even more than Baldur's Gate 3 or any of the Game of the Year contenders. The future of Starfield does look bright. In fact, Planet Exploration will get an update by the time the expansion Shattered Space comes out, where they'll add land vehicles. I know it's common to judge games for how they released and not their potential, and that's a good statement. But now we're in a state where Starfield is actually better than it was previously, where last year I probably would have given it an 8 out of 10 at most. I now think that Starfield sits at a healthy 9 out of 10, and that's my official score for the game, and no other game on this channel has a 9 out of 10 other than in my first episode of 3 Games, 3 Impressions, where the game Sable scored a 9 out of 10, but in that series, those scores are based on what I think the game can be and are not a full review of that game. I know this isn't my traditional review where I go over graphics, gameplay, and story. I felt like I really didn't have to because Starfield's been out long enough where a lot of the reviews are kind of the same, but I am on that side of the reviews where I really like the game, and for someone who loves sci-fi games, Starfield for me is a 9 out of 10. It is not the perfect game, and like I said, if you asked me last year, I would have definitely have given this game an 8, but with this quality of life update, I feel like this gave the push to the 9 the game needed. Now, content-wise, I cannot wait for Shattered Space, and I can't wait to hear more about that in the coming days, which I will cover Shattered Space when they, go more in depth about it. Thank you so much for watching. For more Starfield content and video game reviews, please subscribe.